Hey, Blake T. Wild here, and welcome back to another episode of Squadron Supreme. But before I get started discussing the Squadron, I have to discuss another group of weird heroes, the Custodians, Agents of Cross. This 6-issue comic series asks the all-important question: what would happen if the only heroes that can save the world are an intelligent baboon, the world's smartest man with the power of elasticity only in his right arm, a teenage girl who controls fire, and a four-armed werewolf? Find out now, because Issue 3 is releasing weekly over on my Patreon, with Issues 1 and 2 having been uploaded there in their entirety. Each book of this 6-issue series is going to be over 50 pages. The last issue is closer to 70. Only $15 for these books. Far better deal than anything you'll get from Marvel or DC these days. And if you're in the Phoenix area, I will be attending Arizona Comic Arts Festival on March 22nd at the Phoenix Shrine Auditorium. Check it out, it's a one-day show, gonna be really great. They've had some great big-name guests in the past. This year they got Kevin Eastman, and that is going to be the first place that you'll be able to buy the physical copy of the Custodians, Agents of Cross, Issue 3, which sees our heroes, the Custodians, as they travel to the Rallian Institute for Accelerated Learning to meet the most fantastic supergroup in training, the Infinitum Brood. It also features 2 backup stories: Let's Get Happy, in which the Neuronaut must mentally battle the villainous Gray Matter, and The Bench That Wouldn't Stop, where an evil city councilman summons a demonic bench that eats people. Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald with art by Bob Hall. This is Squadron Supreme: The Clash. Previously on Squadron Supreme, I propose we dedicate ourselves to remaking the world a utopia. This curbing of power policy hasn't worked. Maybe this crisis could have been avoided if we had all been living up to our potential. With great powers such as ours come equally great responsibilities. Master Menace retrieves a large metal rod and injects it into a glowing mass of unknowable cosmic multiversal energy. He rips out Hyperion. This Hyperion asks who his rescuer is, and Master Menace removes his helmet to reveal his big beard and long wild hair, and announces that he is Dr. Emil Burbank. Hyperion recognizes the name and realizes that he's been sent to the other world with the other Hyperion. Hyperion breaks away into action and chases after the meteor. He prepares to shatter the space rock when suddenly an energy overcomes him and he disappears. The meteor detonates and Master Menace's ship blasts off at great speeds as Hyperion pretends to crash land. Then Hyperion wakes up with amnesia. So he flies to Master Menace's base and unleashes his laser vision. Master Menace's force field disperses it, and Hyperion goes fucking crazy on him. Menace manages to escape and activates his dimensional machine and uses his armor to open a portal and leaps away into nothing. At Lake Supreme in Squadron City, Zarda yields to an irresistible force. The Wizard, don't laugh, races through a city that looks like this world's version of San Francisco. Across town, 2 supervillains named the Rustler and Bollocks come out of hiding to rob a bank. They use the now widely publicly available personal force field belts to escape the 2 security officers. Then the Wizard arrives, and he easily reduces the effectiveness of their force fields by dribbling the men like basketballs to the nearby police precinct and placing them in a cell. 20 miles away, Tom Thumb, and to a lesser extent, Da Shape, inspect a force belt manufacturing plant. Wizard then arrives as Tom and Da Shape head out to lunch and brings up the fact that criminals are using the force field belts. But Tom says, let's keep that on the down low for now. Let's not worry the rest of the squadron with that just yet. Elsewhere, Ape X and Quagmire, 2 members of the former Institute of Evil, are joined by Blue Eagle to oversee a facility manufacturing chemical tranquilizer pellets called Gumdrops. If you remember in earlier issues, the Squadron Supreme outlawed firearms entirely. They rounded them up, they smelted them down to be reused for new metals, for infrastructure, or whatever else. So now, this new technology developed by Tom Thumb are called what were they called? Gumdrops. They're these big, like, jawbreaker-sized pellets that, I don't really know how they work. I guess they just hit you and release some sort of chemical, or like it seeps into your skin and into your blood system, something like that. It tranquilizes you is what happens. That's why those two security officers at the beginning of the comic, their guns were so big. Anyway, Quagmire tries to hit on one of the women working on the production line, and Blue Eagle immediately orders him to step outside, then reprimands him, then punches him in the face, knowing that Quagmire, former villain turned squadroneer, because his brain was rewritten by the behavioral modification machine, is unable to defend himself from one of the squadron members. They have had their brain synapses reworked to where the point that even if the squadron member, as we can see right now, is beating the shit out of them, they are powerless to fight back. So yeah, what does that say about Blue Eagle? Nothing good. He's not doing well mentally. Eagle then flies off, and 15 minutes later he returns to discover that there was a gas leak from the chemicals. Apex tells him that Quagmire pulled 30 workers to safety, but he inhaled so much of the gas that he has gone unconscious and is totally comatose. Meanwhile, across the country, Arcana arrives to the hospital at Squadron City for an examination. She waves her hands and undoes her glamour conjuration and reveals that she is actually very far along in her pregnancy. She just has been using her magic to disguise herself. And I really love this idea. I love that aspect of the character that she does this. It's such a great creative use of her abilities, and it's something that I feel should be played up more with characters like Scarlet Witch, obviously, but also like Emma Frost and other telepaths, is that they can control how we perceive them. So, like, why does that aspect never really get brought up more than it does? Dr. Decibel conducts his checkup and says that he is not sure if she should continue hiding her pregnancy like this, and says that she definitely shouldn't do any extraneous superhero work. But she tells him that it's her 4th child and that there's no worry. She's got it, then she heads out. Elsewhere, Hyperion leads Lamprey and Dr. Spectrum back to Squadron City. Hyperion asks if it's okay that he flies on ahead, and they say sure, and he takes off. And then Lamprey notices how odd Hyperion's energy feels. Lamprey has the ability, he's pretty much like Parasite from DC Comics. He can siphon the energy and the powers and whatnot of anyone that he touches, and I guess it's because he's stolen Hyperion's energy and powers before that he can, like, you know, sense them in some way, and he knows what they're like, meaning that this one's, obviously different. But due to his B-modded brain, he is physically unable to bring up his concerns or suspicions because that would go against a squadron member. How deep does that core writing of the brain run? It goes to a horrible depth. Just imagine the illicit things that they could have had happen to him. Hyperion soars across the sky and into the office of Power Princess. He flies in and immediately comes on to Zarda. Hyperion tells her that he just can't control himself when he sees her, and she laughs and asks what the hell she's gonna do with him. And meanwhile, outside of reality, the real Hyperion is forced to watch as his changeling double takes over his life. He tries once again to free himself from wherever he's been trapped. He flies at immense speeds and attempts to rip himself back into reality. He screams in pain as he forces himself further and further, faster and faster, but he's unable to escape, and he plummets into the strange ethereal realm with which he is trapped, and that's when he sees somebody else. Master Menace! Hyperion soars over and catches him by the cape and demands to know what he's done. Master Menace reveals the entire last issue to Hyperion and how he was betrayed by Hyperion and sent himself here to escape the evil duplicate. Menace also reveals that he's fucked because his suit has run out of power, and without power, he cannot reactivate the suit to open a portal to get him back to Earth. Hyperion suspects that his atomic vision might do the trick, and Master Menace tries to make an agreement with Hyperion that once they return to Earth, neither he nor any of the squadron members, past or present, will come after him or use their B-mod on him. And Hyperion says that he's a criminal, and he'll do everything in his power to stop Master Menace. So Master Menace deuces. Sometime later, Hyperion trudges through the ethereal mist of non-reality and finds Master Menace just chilling on some rocks. Hyperion reluctantly agrees to a truce if Master Menace agrees to not attempt to interfere or tamper with the Squadron Supreme or their Utopia program. Menace agrees and tells Hyperion to focus his atomic vision on the induction coils along his chest piece of his armor. Hyperion does just that. Master Menace's armor is rejuvenated and he glows with ultimate power. He then attempts to send only himself back to Earth, but Hyperion lunges and catches hold just as the armor explodes with energy, and they arrive thousands of feet in the sky above Master Menace's castle. Hyperion thanks him for the help and soars away as Menace plummets and crashes into the Earth. Hyperion crashes into the Squadron's meeting hall, finds Hyperion and clocks him out of the building. Hyperion announces what's happened and then flies out of the building after his duplicate. The rest of the Squadron race out after them and split up to scour the continent for the Hyperions. Lamprey, through some weird loophole because that Hyperion is fake, informs Zarda that he knows about the fake Hyperion's energy signals, and that they can track them that way. Meanwhile, over the skies of whatever they call Montana in this universe, the Hyperions duke it out and smash through Mount Rushmore. Hyperion rips the nose off of Ben Franklin, I think, and hurtles it at Hyperion. Hyperion blows it up with his atomic vision, and then they both unleash their I-beams on each other. The Squadron follow Lamprey as he tracks the energy signatures as the Hyperions unleash their atomic vision on one another. Hyperion orders his corrupted clone to stand down, but Hyperion refuses and tells his double that he'll have to kill him. And in some of these panels that look so much like what Frank Miller would go on to illustrate in The Dark Knight Strikes Again, Hyperion's powers fail him, and his fucking eyes explode and melt into nothing. Hyperion falls to the ground and screams in utter pain as Hyperion blindly marches towards him and begins smashing his face into a pulp. Power Princess demands that someone stop him, and Spectrum uses his power prism to restrain the real Hyperion. Hey look, it's a return to the long sleeve look. Hyperion calls out that he also can't see anything, and realizes that he too burnt out his eyes. Not to the extent of the fake one, he's still got him in his noggin. Then he screams that that thing over there on the ground took his place and killed Zarda's husband. And then he stops resisting as Power Princess holds the evil clone in her arms. Hyperion weakly admits that he did kill Howard and begs her to forgive him. Then he disintegrates and falls apart because he's a horrible homunculus. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Very dark. Very violent. What do you really say here? It's interesting, like I noted last time, that these two issues, 7 and 8, they kind of, like, they put on the handbrake and really pause everything to focus on Hyperion for a little bit. Because going forward, Power Princess takes over for the Squadron, and Hyperion kind of takes a back seat to things. He kind of becomes the second in charge, because he can't fucking see without these special glasses that he has to wear. And this is just, it's gruesome. What happens? Fucking a man's eyes explode, and he's screaming and writhing in pain as the main hero of the comic. Hyperion, this version of Superman, marches towards him and just starts cracking his fucking face in like it was a watermelon. It's horrifying. And I really do love those last two panels, the ones I brought up that look like Frank Miller's. Those just are so visceral and intense, and you can feel the heat and the radiation coming off of their atomic vision. And it's just such a climactic battle over this character who was reintroduced one issue ago. Like, it's a month between issues because it takes place in real time, but it's just insane that how quickly all of this occurs and goes down. And you gotta also keep that in mind, the fact that these issues do take place over real time. So Hyperion has been gone for at least a month, probably a little bit longer, forced to just fucking float around whatever space that is, outside of nothing, outside of reality, astral realm possibly, watching his evil duplicate. Like, what else did evil Hyperion get up to in the intervening month? Like, what kind of things did he ruin because he's a fucking idiot who just wants to bang Zarda, and, you know, he's a villain. He was created as a villain by the Grand Master. And this issue does quite well to establish where the final 4 issues are going to be heading, which is violence and ruin. That's pretty much the best way to describe it, because the next issue, it's no different. There's death, there's destruction, there's mayhem, it's depressing. And then it just keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going, until it just kind of ends. So I hope you stay tuned for that. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. What are your thoughts leading up thus far into this point in the series? Are you Team Hyperion, Team Hype, hashtag Team Hype, or are you hashtag Team NH, Team Nighthawk? Where do you sort of fall on this proto-Civil War in Marvel Comics? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know, of course, any recommendations for future comics to cover. Let me know what kind of Ultimate comics from the Ultimate Universe, the original one, that you would like to see me cover in the future, because don't forget, it is still the Ultimate era here on Smokey's videos, and I will see you all next time. Bye!